What's going on, people? We are back again with another video. Now, when it comes to Mary and Brandon at this year's tell-all, a lot of things went down. There's a lot of context to cover. So I'm doing the video a little bit different for this one, okay? Decided to bring it into a nice little compilation, and now I'm going to break down, obviously, the points that I'm able to put down and give you my thoughts and opinions on exactly what I think when it comes to Brandon and Mary's relationship at this moment in time. But hey, man, listen, don't forget to like and subscribe, but let's get into this one.
That will hurt you like what?
I do sometimes call her a scammer. It's like she's only happy when she has money or something like that, and that really upsets her. That really makes her upset. Most of the time, if I get mad, I call her a bitch.
What the?
Is it okay? Is it healthy to be with somebody that you want to call a scammer? Somebody that you want to call a BICTH? Is it healthy? I mean, obviously, common sense says no. Why be with someone that you feel like is scamming you? Make that make sense. But you know, when it comes to Brandon and Mary, a lot of the times when they say certain things to justify their relationship, sense is a part of the relationship that is missing pretty much 99% of the time. Just a little bit for the 1%. But let's continue.
How do you respond when he calls you a bitch?
I'll just cry.
Nice.
And how does that make you
Very
feel,
good.
Brandon?
I don't mean the things I say when I get mad. Into an argument with her, I want her to argue with me, not just be like, oh, I'm sorry, it's all my fault and all this stuff. Mary has a hard time not being submissive. I just want her to...
Oh, listen, I'm going to say this right now. You cannot sit here and tell me that you don't mean what you say. If you're calling her certain names, it stems from somewhere. You believe it, not even subconsciously, you believe it consciously. You've just put it subconsciously, if that makes sense. You've hidden it in the back, so you use it when you're at that breaking point, boiling point. So for Brandon to say that is outrageous if you ask me personally. But this one here, though, this little situation here, I find very, very fascinating. I'm just gonna go back a little bit though, because I find this really, really fascinating.
Argue with me, not just be like, oh, I'm sorry, it's all my fault and all this stuff. Mary has a hard time not being submissive. I just want her to kind of be like, don't call me that. I'm not a bitch, or, you know, like I want to get that out of her.
Because that's the mother of your kids. Like, it's a different level of respect now. She carried your baby. She, like, gave...
I mean, Kalani's projecting, but she's not wrong. I mean, listen, okay, cool. So you're doing it because you want a reaction out of her. That is not good. You know, that is pretty much one of the narcissistic traits. You know, no one should ever be with somebody and try and do certain things to try and trigger them. That doesn't make any sense. So what, is that what life is about now? Is that what relationships are about now? Trying to get a reaction out of somebody? I mean, listen, if Mary is the way she is, then it's up to you whether you want to accept it or not. And if you don't like the way she is, but you feel like you can have a conversation about it, then have a conversation about it. But to be honest with you, would I really want to be in a position where I would want to make Mary into something else, where I'd want to make her the way he's trying to portray her? Hell no. I mean, listen, fair enough, he wants to have a backbone every now and then, but at the end of the day, not everybody's built to have a backbone. Some people rely on other people for backbones. You see what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with that, because not everybody has a backbone, and that's just cool. So if she is seeking to build somebody that's going to give her that, that's going to give her that protection, then Brandon, that's your role there, buddy. You know, masculine versus feminine. So, yeah, I mean, he needs to learn to know his woman. Well, I guess his wife in this matter.
birth to her.
What would make Brandon call his wife a scammer, the B word?
Well, in the past, I mean, the behavior was, as long as she had money, she was great. She wasn't great. It was, I'm leaving you, we're breaking up, I can't do this anymore, you're not my boyfriend.
And that's why when he says what he says, he means it, because it's been implanted in the back of his head because of her actions towards him. So for him to even try and deny it is hilarious.
Block, delete. It's been more like, we are in a really tough spot. She doesn't want me to ask you, and she's mad that I'm asking you, but I don't know where else to go.
Oh.
So just explain this little bit of context in case you missed it. Oh, this part here is all about the financials, you know? But they've got a kid now, you know what I mean? And it's all about the financial part. And obviously, you know, Brandon and Mary claim that they were okay financially, but he also claims that before they came to the Philippines, he had made sure that they both had really thought about the finances of them having a child, which is outrageous because we saw them that once he got to the Philippines, their financial situation was not good. And from what I understand, it was only 3 weeks ago, based on when this was filmed, when Brandon asked money from his mother for himself and for obviously his wife and also his child. But some people think that they can make it in this world, you know, with the child, even if they don't have any money, which is outrageous. I mean, it's possible, but it's outrageous. You know what I mean?
Obviously, with a baby comes more expenses. How are you guys handling that, Brandon?
Just reopened our business and we make money out of it, so.
Because a baby is expensive. It's expensive.
Yeah.
And that they don't have the tools that they need to work together They both completely have different communication styles. It's the opposite. You have to really push him to a limit for him to snap and get like blow up or raise his voice or something. Brandon.
You know, that's quite interesting though, isn't it? Because his mum says that, okay, let's go back a little bit. The child part. Yes, having a child definitely makes things a whole lot more harder. Expenses become a whole lot more expensive, you know what I mean? And that's the truth, you know? And now I forgot the point I was going to make a second ago. So let me just go back a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
For him to snap and get like blow up or raise his voice or something.
Ah, yes. His mum says that for Brandon to really get to a point where he's blowing up point, it takes a lot. And let's be real, we've seen the way Mary is. And to be fair, I'm going to compare Brandon to Wayne in this situation, because Wayne is somebody that has struggled to be able to tolerate Holly, because Holly needs a lot of reassurance all the time. And you never know whether you're coming and going with her because of her ADHD potentially, right? Now with Mary now, again, Brandon's in the same situation where he's with someone that is very draining, somebody that requires attention all the time, somebody that requires reassurance all the time, you know. And I feel like for Brandon, if anything, maybe he gets drained and worn out with the fact that he's always having to, you know, pay attention to Mary, and he's not able to go off and just play his game. He's not able to go off and just chill. Like, there's a point here where the mum explains something that she explains how they fell out recently. And when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, like the only reason why she probably thought that was purely because she wanted your attention. I mean,
Brandon had the volume on too loud of the movie or whatever it was. She was afraid to like ask him to turn it down or whatever. She didn't want him to get mad. This is where the confusion comes in, is he wasn't upset. So instead of just turning it down, he turned it off and went outside to listen to music on his phone. He wasn't upset at all. They butt heads a lot. And then when that gets to like a boiling point, they do not know how to handle it.
you see, this is my perspective when it comes to them button heads and stuff like that. Like I said, you know, I'm looking at it this way. Mary thinks that when she told Brandon to get off his PlayStation, he gets up and arguably slams his PS5 controller, which I understand makes him definitely look upset, which probably he would be maybe. But obviously he gets up and pretty much goes outside and listens to music instead. So obviously Mary thinks, okay, now he's mad, now he's, you know, pissed or whatever, right? So therefore she's thinking, okay, what do I do? So she messages his mother, and obviously his mother's now contacting him, blah, 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 blah. He's saying that, no, I'm not upset. I just decided to walk away. And this is the thing, when it comes to Brandon, when things get too much, he decides to walk away. When he feels that Mary is about to go absolute ape shit, he walks away. You know, he'd rather walk away rather than be in the situation, which for sometimes that can be healthy, sometimes it can be unhealthy. It really depends on the people that are involved in the situation. Now, when it comes to these two in particular, I guess it can be very unhealthy, because you see with Mary now, she's somebody that wants to still, she wants you to still be around even when you're mad at her. Even when something's wrong, she still wants to be in the same room as you. Brandon, he's like, no. I'd rather go away, cool off, and come back. But the problem is that Mary isn't allowing him to go off, cool off peacefully. If he goes off and cools off, she gets mad at him. If he stays, she's mad at him. So he's literally at that point where that's why he's probably starting to lose his shiz probably more and more than ever before. But if his mom's saying that it usually takes him a long time to get there, that means usually he's usually in a very good space, very good space. Usually he's in an area where he can control himself. But if he's not really getting to that area where he can control himself, well then that screams a lot of things right there. That tells me that clearly Mary doesn't allow, he doesn't feel like he can breathe because Mary doesn't allow him to have peace or anything. Yeah, that makes sense to me. If it doesn't make sense to you, then that's your fault.
You know, his instinct is to leave. She doesn't want him to leave, and then it just becomes this huge thing.
I'm holding my baby. He's yelling at me while I'm holding my baby.
You know, listen, it is not okay for my son to raise his voice or yell at her, especially in front of their daughter. In all honesty, both of you need individual therapy for your own individual traumas.
You know what the thing is, the mum really said this throughout the season, you know, and I really liked it when she said it, but I really disliked how she said it once. But of course, I'm not saying that Brandon and Mary would have listened to her properly even back then anyway, but it's nice to see that she's obviously repeating it again. But to be fair, there is something that Kimberly says that is quite interesting.
Learn the tools that you need that are necessary to not only be a healthy individual, but to be a healthy partner. So afraid of being wrong, of failing, of not being good enough, that you think that if you say this is what I'm struggling with.
I'm just scared, like, I will get judged or...
So this is Mary talking about therapy, talking about how she doesn't want to go therapy because she's afraid that she get judged. Which I understand, because not all cultures are the same. Not all cultures are open to therapists, you know what I mean? In some cultures, if you go to therapists, man, you're looked at as if there's something wrong with you. So I understand.
You know.
How is therapy viewed in your culture, Mary?
Culture, if you go to a therapy, they'll think you're crazy.
suffer.
They suffer.
It's the same in Samoa. There's
Same
one
anywhere.
therapist in the entire country, and if you go, you're insane.
Personally, Mary's already said that she has trust issues. I feel like maybe she needs to get deeper within this relationship with Brandon before she can reach out to a complete stranger and trust them not to judge her.
I mean, listen, honestly, there's a lot of truth behind that, you know. But at the same time, though, I also feel like I don't know if there's anything ever that's gonna ever. Actually, no. The only thing that would probably convince Mary to go to therapy is if she was in the States, which is something that they did talk about later on in this video here. So I feel like as long as she's at home in her country, she won't do it. She's too ashamed of the embarrassment. But if she's somewhere else where nobody knows her, I reckon she'd be much more open towards it.
Father of four, even if they bring you into it, I'd butt out because you're going to get in a bad relationship with one or both of them. When my kids talk to me, I listen, but I don't give a lot of advice because it can backfire. You're going to piss her off or you're going to piss him off.
Although I do agree with Kennedy to a certain degree, I also disagree on another degree because I feel like sometimes in life, especially in today's society, and I think for me personally, given the fact that I worked with so many children and I've experienced so many parents being like this, I find that kids, for them, I feel like it's a way of enabling their behavior, to be honest with you, because I feel like nowadays a lot of kids struggle with restrictions. They struggle with strict parents, you know, because not enough parents are strict. I feel like it's very important for parents to be strict and to have boundaries so kids can understand the rights and wrongs and not to go too far, because at the end of the day, if you look at ourselves and depending on your generation, if you look back at your parents being strict now in a healthy way, you would understand that strictness helped you to become more constructed in life. It helped you to become more balanced in life. It helped you to make sure that you have your priorities in the right place. So even though I do agree with Kenny to a certain degree, another degree, I've got to point out that, well, you can do that, but don't do it too much. But I will say this though, if you're dealing with kids who are adults, then fair enough. Everything that he says, I have nothing against it whatsoever. But if you're dealing with kids who are still young, it's subjective, if you know what I mean. So yeah, but we continue.
And then you're going to be the one canceled.
Shocked to hear that they were trying. That was shocking.
Do you think he thought them having a baby was going to make sure she didn't leave him?
I mean, listen, if anything, it was probably Mary that wanted to have a child, so therefore he wouldn't leave her, to be honest with you. I don't think it was Brandon having a kid with her, so she wouldn't leave him personally. I mean, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, if anything, maybe they both had the same idea. There is also that potential, but it's crazy though that they were both trying at such a young age and also trying at a stage where they've only just met. Trying even before they were married and breaking all the rules, cultural rules.
More couples than I can count stories. She is the most controlling female I've ever seen.
You know, girls everywhere are pretty. I'm scared he might leave me. I love him so much.
One foot leaning towards move out of the Philippines altogether. Mary really wants to visit America. I want her to visit America and meet my family in person. It's the cultural difference, and we could try and make it work there too.
But I don't want to leave my grandmother because she's sick.
And I want to ask you,
There's always a reason for Mary to not leave the Philippines and to go to America.
what is the jealousy situation like now? Are you still prevented from interacting with the opposite sex?
I don't really use social media, so it's not like I interact with people online that much, except for like
Just in a bikini, but she's like shaking her ass in a sexual way on camera to the camera, trying to get a lot of sexual attention.
Get swiped.
Wow.
She's shaking her ass on social media, but doesn't want Brandon to do anything.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah, but you're doing it, Mary, and you're this very controlling person towards your husband. He was watching videos of another girl. What if he was liking them and looking at those kind of videos of other girls?
Good point.
He doesn't do that.
He does.
Aren't you stopping him from liking and watching other girls?
No, I just put down a boundary and I said, you don't do this when you're in a relationship.
All right, boom. So that's the compilation right then and there. So let's summarize this now, man. Listen, let's just state the obvious. These two should have never got married. These two should have never had children. And these two really and truly should never be in a relationship. These two are two people who really need therapy, deep therapy. But also at the same time, they have to work on their own relationship as well first. And I think Mary as well is definitely in a position where she needs more help than Brandon, if anything. Because I feel like with Brandon, at least he kind of has the support of his mom, you know, who's more understanding to his needs and his worries. I don't think Mary has that within her family household. And that's probably why Mary is the way she is. She's probably never had that with anybody in her life because of how things are so differently in the Philippines. So, and it is sad. It is very, very sad for her, you know. But I worry for Brandon because even if Brandon starts to improve himself, Mary won't like that because she won't like being left behind. She'll prefer them both to be at the same toxic level rather than him improve himself. And the only way that she's going to improve herself is if she removes herself from her from where she's at, you know what I mean? Where she lives now, you know what I mean? So I can only hope and pray that Mary decides to do better for herself, you know, but it's not gonna happen, is it? But listen, man, the most important thing out of this is that they now have a child, Midnight, and the most important thing is that their child isn't traumatized by these two traumas. And that's something that is already freaking happening right now, sadly so, with the shouting, with the screaming, with the moaning. It's already not a good environment for the baby. And if anything, if they care about the baby, well, then maybe they would fix up. Because if they don't fix up, they could easily end up being another Paul Carini and end up losing their child. But at the same time, though, they are in the Philippines, so maybe the rules and, you know, all that kind of stuff, maybe it's not as strict as it is in America. So maybe they don't have to worry about CPS or anything like that, which isn't a good thing. You know what I mean? I can only wish them the best. Honestly, wish them the best. And the reason why I can wish them the best is because they've got a child. If they didn't have a child, I could care less about whether they broke up or not. You know what I mean? I wouldn't really care to wish them the best, you know, honesty. But either way, though, you guys let me know what you're thinking and we'll talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, peace.